everybody, what's up my fellow writers, readers, small business supporters? I'm Savvy. Welcome back to the channel Savvy Writes Books, where we talk about books and business. Today we are going to be talking about the intersection of American Girl doll books and the LGBTQ community once again, which is why here with me today I have my custom doll that I made, Charlotte, who is canonically transgender according to the books that I have been writing about her. If you want to see more about the development of Charlotte and her stories, then please check out the giant 3-hour-long American Girl doll deep dive that I put out this past December. Anyway, Charlotte's going to be here with me while we talk about what's going on today. So if you guys remember, in January of 2023, now about 1 year ago, I put out a video about the drama surrounding this new American Girl self-help book, one of the Smart Girls Guide books called The Smart Girls Guide to Body Image. And that book had come out in 2022, and in December of 2022, specifically during the Christmas shopping season, that book got a lot of backlash, especially from conservative influencers, mainly people like Matt Walsh and his wife, people like Allie Beth Stuckey, just a bunch of people on Twitter especially, doing this giant pushback against this book, A Smart Girl's Guide to Body Image, because the book talked about being transgender. On one of the pages, it had a little section that talked about how body image might be different if you're someone who suspects that you're transgender or suspects that you're part of the LGBTQ community, and how your body image might manifest a little bit differently and how those things might happen. If you want to learn more about what that book specifically said, I highly recommend you check out my video breaking down A Smart Girl's Guide to Body Image, the video that came out back in January of 2023. I think it was called like American Girl Dolls Promote the Woke Gay Agenda or something like that. Anyway, this book received a ton of backlash, which ended up causing the author of the book, Mel Hammond, to face a ton of harassment from all of these conservative influencers and their followers, accusing her of things that she didn't actually write, accusing her of things that weren't true. It was just a terrible time for her. Well, fortunately, I have gotten the pleasure to get to interview Mel Hammond, the author of that book. So in just a moment, I am going to show you guys the interview that I conducted with Mel about her process of writing this book, the process of dealing with the harassment and backlash that she got from it, and also her process of moving forward in the future as a writer. You know, she's still doing a lot of writing in the LGBTQ genre, and I even got to interview her sister Tegan as well, because the two of them have just written a LGBTQ novel together that is going to be coming out this October.
Spoiler alert!
So in just a minute, we're going to learn about the process of what writing this American Girl book was like, what the process was of receiving excessive backlash that was not deserved, and in addition to that, learning how Mel is moving forward and how she and her sister are teaming up to continue having positive LGBTQ representation for teenagers out there in this world. Charlotte and I are very excited to introduce you guys to this interview, so let's get into it.
Get you some nuts!
Yeah, you effing.
Up yours, woke moralist. We'll see who cancels who.
Before we get into the interview, I just want to give a quick thank you to my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much for supporting this channel. Patreon supporters' names are up on the screen in the description below. You can find where Patreon supporters at the $5 a month tier can link their own stuff in my description below, so check them out as well. And if you like this shirt right here, it is available on my merch website, hipsterunicorn.myshopify.com, which is where you can get my merch with my custom original art on it. If you guys like that, I hope you enjoy. Now into the interview. So I am here today with Mel Hammond and Tegan Hammond, who are sisters that write together, which is so awesome. And Mel, y'all may know as the author of the American Girl body image book that I've talked about on my channel before. So I've got some great interview questions for both of them. I'm very excited to hear their stories about their life as authors. So Mel, to start off, how did you first get involved with writing for American Girl? How did that process happen?
So I got a job at American Girl in 2019, and I was a content editor, and it was really a dream job for me. I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and American Girl is just down the road in Middleton. And I actually didn't grow up on American Girl. Like, obviously I knew about it, but like, I never had the dolls. I never read the books. I think because the dolls were expensive and like our parents were never gonna get them for us, I was like, well, I don't even need to read the books. I wish I had, because I would have loved them as a kid. So the first American Girl book I read was before my interview. I went to the library and I checked out like every American Girl book they had, and I just read all of them. I was convinced they were going to ask me at my interview, which American Girl do you identify with? So I was like, I gotta have my answer. And so I read them all and I was like, I'm Kit. Like, she's the writer. Like, I
It's a
got
solid choice.
I
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
didn't ask. I was like,
Oh,
come on. I started as a nonfiction editor and I loved my job. And soon they had me writing books too. So I wrote 3 altogether. Pets was well, actually Love the Earth came out first, and then Pets, and then Body Image. And then I did some fiction editing too, and I was there about 4 years. Body Image was the last book to come out while I was there. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to research and write. Was really proud of it. It got a lot of attention.
yeah. I did want to talk to you about the body image book before we get into all the like attention from every which way about it. What was your process like for writing the book? What kind of like research did you have to do beforehand, or like how did you approach it? How did you work together? I don't know, with other writers or editors. I'm curious about the process for writing a book like that that's supposed to be, nonfiction for kids of that age, that's informative but explains things and breaks it down in a way that they can understand.
Yeah, so I can talk really generally about it. I don't want to go into too many specifics, but I did a ton of research, read a lot of books, read scientific papers, listened to a lot of podcasts, talked a lot with my boss, who was also an editor on the project. I was just like totally immersed in that topic during the time I was writing it. And then I worked really closely with the art director to make sure the illustrations really reflected the message of the book.
That's awesome. I mean, I thought it was a really good book. I'd read all the American Girl books back when I was a kid in the late 90s back then, and I thought, I wish this one had been around for me when I was that age, because this is a great book. I'm all about like, having acceptance for your own body, and I think it's fantastic. But unfortunately, we did see the book got a lot of backlash, particularly from like a lot of conservative influencers, a lot of like Christian mom groups, those kind of things. A lot of people were being kind of nasty, and in my opinion, from having read the book and looked at the backlash, I think it's all people who didn't read the book who were being frustrated about it, because a lot of the stuff they complained about was not at all equivalent to what was happening in the book. However, I wanted to know about your perspective as the author. What kind of harassment did you receive? What was that like?
Yeah, it was awful. So I still remember the moment I saw the first article from the Daily Mail. It was on December 6th, 2022. And I saw someone send it to me and they're like, have you seen this? And I saw my own face staring back at me from this article. And it was a photo from years earlier that I had on my Instagram.
Oh, that's weird.
And it was a weird photo too. Like Tegan and I have this face that we do. We call it the attentive face. And like whenever we want to like mess up a photo, we'll just like use that face. So it kind of looks like this. Yeah, Tegan's
I
doing
love it.
so I was literally doing that face.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, like I look deranged. And so I was so confused. I'm like, why is this photo on this article? And then the more articles started coming in. People were sending me hate mail through my website and on like Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger. People were saying all kinds of horrible things. Like I have a few them I can read out. You're a pedophile groomer, also known as a human piece of shit. Sickos like you should be purged from this country. My favorite one was literally just the word evil with 3 exclamation points after it.
Evil. Because that is like, that's so ridiculous that at that point it's like, okay, evil, but some of those are just like legitimately terrifying.
Yeah, so it was very scary, and I got messages from people letting me know that there were private groups on Facebook that were like conspiring to like get the book banned and were like talking about me in the group. So I became kind of obsessed with like obviously like if you can avoid reading the comments, great.
Yeah.
But I was so afraid that someone was doxing me in the comments of like articles or like YouTube videos. or anywhere on the internet. So I became obsessed with like searching for my own personal information. I got this like Chrome extension to search the transcripts and comments on YouTube videos because I was like so afraid someone was publishing my address.
Oh, that's
So
really scary.
yeah, like
Yeah.
obviously I did not want to be reading the comments, but I wanted to be aware. Like if I was going to have people show up at my house, I wanted to be ready. So it was really horrible, and it was hard to see this book that I was so proud of be just so hated in the media. And I also got plenty of like positive feedback too,
Mhm.
and especially hearing from young people who really connected with the book and were grateful for it. Like that meant a lot. And at the same time, like most of my emotions at the time were fear and being very upset with what was going on.
Yeah, that's extremely understandable. That's one of my greatest fears is just to suddenly like see your face in an article or in anything where you have no control over what's being said about you. In a lot of cases, it's not even true, and the parts that are true are taken out of context and all of that kind of stuff. How did you deal with it with like moving forward into new writing projects? Like, how did you get past that? Because that sounds really difficult.
So I have a visual aid.
Oh, I'm excited.
So this is a rainbow collage I made out of all the hate comments and
I love the evil.
yeah, I've got evil up there. So I like just printed it all out and I painted it different colors, and then I made a collage, and it usually hangs above the cat's litter box where it belongs. Um, and that was really cathartic. And yeah, I went to some therapy too, which helped. Yeah, then I just kept doing my thing. I'm a writer and I kept writing, and Tegan and I were working on a book together at the time
Mhm.
that stars a trans protagonist. So I was like, well, fuck you, right wingers.
There you
I'm gonna
go.
keep working on this.
Well, I think that's great. I love the rainbow collage. That's a nice way to, reclaim it kind of, because it's like those people who send you those comments, they didn't even read the book anyway, so it's not even like real reviews, it's just people being nasty. So, I like that you put it above the litter box. So, since I know you mentioned like in moving forward, one of the things is that you two were writing a book together and now you are both preparing for the release of that book. So, I want to hear from both of you about what the book's about, the new project that you're working on. When's that coming out? Tell me all about it.
It's a book that we started like back in 2017, right? 2017. It was originally just like, I don't know, a passion project, like a way for me and Mel to connect, not really expecting it to be like a published novel or anything. And we ended up working on it for years. So now it's going to be publishing this year in October it's Lucy Uncensored.
Awesome. What is the brief plot synopsis, or like I know that's often hard for writers like me included when they're like, what's the brief plot synopsis? Because you want to say everything, but what's it about in a nutshell?
It's so many things. It's kind of a friendship story and kind of like just a story about like finding your identity and like finding community with others. But it follows a protagonist who's like a young trans woman, senior year of high school, like looking to go off to colleges and like trying to find a balance between like passing and being accepted as a woman, but also like being proud of her own identity and just like navigating her whole changing life with her best friend Kat.
I love that. So is this a young adult novel?
Yes.
I love LGBTQ young adult novels are one of my favorite genres of all time. So I will be so excited to read this. So it's when this year is it come? Is it this year or next year that it's coming out?
October 8th.
October. Oh, that's so exciting. Oh my God, I can't wait to get it. That's going to be fantastic. I'm curious too, because like I think writing with another person can be really fun. Sometimes there's challenges to just like aligning schedules or like figuring out how you're gonna break down the work and things like that. So I'm wondering both of you, what was your process like for working together on a book? How'd you divide up who did what, or how did you communicate about it? I love hearing about other people's processes for that kind of thing too.
Our process was very unique. Tegan, I feel like it's more your story to tell. So do you want to start and then I can chime in?
Yeah. So when we first started, scheduling was not an issue at all. I was actually in prison at the
Wow.
time. And so this, like I said, was our way of connecting. I had plenty of free time, so I would just like write a chapter or two or seven at a time and like snail mail it to Mel. And she was like typing everything up and sending me her chapters back.
I
Oh,
still
cool.
have
So
all the
you would
chapters.
like handwrite stuff, send it to her in the mail. Oh my goodness, that is a unique process. I've never that was nothing like what I expected. That's incredible.
Yeah, so it was very asynchronous. It actually started out being like a two perspective novel where I was writing Lucy chapters and Mel was writing Callie chapters.
Hmm.
Um, and then eventually it kind of just evolved into really focusing on just Lucy's voice.
That's really
Um,
cool. So how did you combine your, because I know what can be difficult sometimes is like when I've done writing with other people, often you do the alternating perspectives or alternating voices, but since it evolved into being one main character's voice, how did the both of you solidify or kind of combine the two of your different writing styles into a cohesive voice?
Well, we had been writing, I mean, this took 6 years to write. So we had a lot of practice, like knowing the other person's voice. And so I would take chapters to my writing group and they would ask, "Oh, did like Tegan write this joke or did you write this joke?" And I'd be like, "Oh my God, I can't even remember." And like they couldn't tell that like it was seamless for them. And even when we were writing two different perspectives, like we were still in each other's chapters very much. So like I have more of the writing background between us, especially because of my experience at writing books for kids and editing books for kids. So I had more of that know-how, like, okay, this is how we structure a story. This is like how to keep the scene moving. Whereas Tegan obviously has the perspective of a trans woman. And so she was able to like really make sure we were hitting the points of the story that we really wanted to tell. And so Tegan was very like high level, like this is what the story needs to be about. And when I would say like, "Oh, well, for story reasons, why don't we do this?" She could say, "Yeah, like let's do it this way." Or, "No, that's not going to work because it's really important that we tell this part of the story this way." So it was very collaborative throughout, even when we were kind of more siloed, chapter by chapter. But by the end, it was Lucy's story. So we really like focused in on her voice. And then it really wasn't that hard to just combine our voices.
That's really cool. And you two both took about 6 years to write this book together, which that's a long time to stay committed to a project. What kind of kept you both going through that whole process of staying committed? Just staying committed to a project for that long is not easy. I think a lot of writers will tell you. Yeah.
I think really just the fact that like we hardly got to see each other. So it was very, very easy to just like hold on to that as like a form of connection and communication. For me, it was like a big distraction from everything going on around me, a way to like escape for a little while, be close to family. And then like once I finally got home, things were like almost there. So we were just like, let's actually, you know, get to the finish line.
I totally agree. Like, there was never a time where I was like, "Oh, like I'm tired of this. Let's give it up." Because that book and working on it together was really a lifeline. So, just for more context, I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and Tegan was in Indiana. So you moved around to a couple different places, but you were between like 3.5 to 5 hours away. It wasn't like I could see her every weekend or anything. So when we had visits, we would like pack in as much as we could. And I do remember a lot of time we spent in that visiting room not even necessarily brainstorming for the book, but just like talking to each other and like sharing memories. And then those memories would turn into like scenes in the story. So there is a pretty iconic poop scene in the book. And one of us experienced that in real life. And I will let readers guess which one of us shared that experience in a prison visiting room.
All right. I'll be excited to see what this scene is when I read the book.
Yeah, then between visits, we would just I would email her chapters and just like, what was going on with me and all kinds of things. Like it was such a way to connect beyond just the story itself, but just like talking about growing up and the women we had become. And yeah, it was really, really meaningful. So that makes me like even prouder of the book than I would be otherwise.
That's fantastic. And I love that you both created a really cool story together, and you also have such a unique story of how you brought this book into existence. I think that that's really awesome. So I'm happy for both of you, and I mean congratulations on the new book release that's coming out in October. I think that's going to be fantastic. I'll look forward to reading that. And yeah, I love to see you continuing to put out new projects, keep working on things, the way that you made that collage of all the hate comments and things like that, because it can really be tough to come back after that level of harassment. So I'm happy to see you keep moving forward and keep doing books with LGBTQ themes and bringing representation to this community. I really appreciate that. That's all the comments or like the questions I had written, but are there any other things that you guys think would be good to talk about regarding, this book, any of your other books?
Well, we don't have any other books yet.
Okay.
Something unique about our writing experience was that Tegan had a lot of free time and we had this like drive to keep working on it. And now Tegan is a very busy human. So we have talked about if we did write a sequel to the book, what would it be? But we have not actually broken ground on anything.
No, I would say I'm very hopeful for a sequel. I'm trying to get enough of a work-life balance that I can actually focus on writing and not be so stressed out.
Yeah, that's the constant struggle. Well, I appreciate both of you talking to me about your process of writing, and Mel, I appreciate you opening up about some of the backlash that you received on your previous book, which I think was completely unfair to have happened to you. So I'm glad to see you moving forward and continuing with writing about what you're passionate about, even, when the Matt Walshes of the world try to bring you down. You can't, I like that. You're not letting them get to you. So I appreciate that. Yeah, it was great to meet both of you. And I'm excited to continue following both of your writing journeys and the books that you put out.
Thank you so much, Savvy. This was really, really fun. And
Absolutely.
I forgot to mention that like during the shitstorm, that was December 2022, I did stumble upon positive videos about the book, including yours. And it was just a breath of fresh air. And it reminded me that there were people rooting for the book out there. So I want to say thank you for that.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for writing it. Thank you for, I know that there were a lot of people that didn't see it the same way, but like from my perspective as like, I think that's a huge right now, especially there's a big adult fandom of American Girl dolls that, grew up with them in the 90s and things like that. And a lot of the adult fandom is queer for some reason. I don't know what it is. I think in my one video that I made about them, I speculated that I think a lot of us identified with the ways the dolls never had any romantic subplots of any kind in any of the books, so we could kind of project like, might this doll grow up to end up with a woman or something, perhaps, like, we don't know. So I think it kind of resonated with a lot of us because of that. And so then to see that more directly represented in one of the books was really nice. It was really nice to see that and to see it broken down like that and directly addressing kids who might be going through that right now. So I was very appreciative of it. I was glad to see it out there in the world, and there were definitely people that it meant a lot to. So I appreciate that you wrote it.
Thank you so much, Savvy. That means a lot.
Of course. Thank you both so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I appreciate it, and I'll look forward to talking again sometime.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Get you some nuts.
Yeah, you effin'.
Up yours, woke moralist. We'll see who cancels who.